Kenmore City Council is now in session. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Give me one moment as I unmute the mics as we go. Councilmember Culver.
Present.
Councilmember.
Present.
Councilmember Sasson.
Here.
Councilmember Shrubnik. Oh,
Councilmember Shrubnik's mic doesn't appear to be working.
one more time. Councilmember Lutzis.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Kane.
Here.
Mayor Herbig.
Here.
All present.
That brings us to the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the city of Kenmore is situated upon the ancestral lands of the Snohomish, Snoqualmie, Soxhawtl, Duwamish, Stillaguamish, Tulalip, Suquamish, Muckleshoot, and other tribes who are part of the Coast Salish peoples. We recognize and express our deepest respect for their enduring stewardship and profound relationship with this land, which they've cherished and protected since time immemorial. We honor the First Peoples, acknowledge their vibrant cultures, and commit ourselves to learning from their wisdom in our journey to promote justice, equity, and mutual understanding. We pledge to stand alongside these communities in acknowledging past injustices and working towards a future that respects and celebrates the diverse heritage of this land. Now, if you'd all please stand and join me in the flag salute. Next item on our agenda is approval of the agenda as published. Unless there are any objections, the agenda will stand approved. There are no objections. The agenda is approved. We have two proclamations tonight. We're going to start off first with our proclamation for Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. Whereas suicide is a devastating public health crisis that claims the lives of more than 49,000 Americans each year, and every life lost sends ripples of pain and heartbreak through families, friends, neighborhoods, workplaces, and schools, underscoring the urgent need for awareness, compassion, and action. And whereas mental health challenges can affect anyone, regardless of age, race, gender, orientation, income, or background, and no one should ever feel alone in their struggles. And whereas the city of Kenmore stands with survivors, advocates, and community organizations to reduce stigma, promote healing, and ensure mental health resources are accessible to all. And whereas the city of Kenmore is proud to be a continued partner with programs such as the Regional Crisis Response Agency, providing coordinated mobile crisis services across the region, and the city continues to promote life-saving resources such as the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. And whereas organizations that the city partners with are vital in offering education, advocacy, and peer support to those affected by mental illness, helping find people hope and build better lives. And whereas every person has the power to make a difference by checking in on loved ones, listening with empathy, and reminding others that they are valued, cared for, and never alone. Now, therefore, I, Nigel Herbig, Mayor of the City of Kenmore, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim September 2025 to be Suicide Prevention Awareness Month throughout the City of Kenmore. And I would like to invite Regional Crisis Response Agency Executive Director Brooke Bittner to say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor Herbig, Deputy Mayor Kane, and Council. It's my honor to be here beside two of our crisis responders from RACER, Tashawa Henry and Emily Evans, to accept this proclamation on behalf of the community. The tide of mental health has just risen since the pandemic, and stigma persists. So actions like this are so important to keep it at the front of our mind, what we as RACER see every day, that people continue to suffer. And I want to thank Kenmore for stepping into the space of meeting people's needs who are experiencing crisis. And I also just to remind everyone in our community, thank you, City of Kenmore, Kenmore Council, Kenmore staff, for naming this month Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. And on behalf of the community and on behalf of Racer, we're delighted to be here to accept.
Thank you so much. Would you three like to join us over by the flags for a photo? That brings us to our second proclamation of the night for National Recovery Month. Whereas behavioral health, including mental health and substance use disorders, affects individuals and families in every community, but with understanding, commitment, and support, recovery is not only possible, but achievable for all. And whereas National Recovery Month is a time to honor the strength and resilience of individuals in recovery, celebrate their dedication, the dedication of families, friends, and professionals who support them, and share the message that treatment works and people do recover. And whereas raising awareness about behavioral health challenges helps break down stigma, encourages open conversations, and empowers individuals and families to seek help and connect with recovery services. And whereas it is vital to ensure that all residents know how to recognize the signs of behavioral health challenges, respond with compassion, and guide those in need to appropriate treatment and recovery support. And whereas the City of Kenmore is committed to fostering a supportive community that uplifts those in recovery and the professionals and organizations who walk alongside them, building a culture of empathy, empowerment, and hope. And whereas National Recovery Month is a reminder that every step towards recovery strengthens our families, communities, and future. And it encourages us all to work together to create a healthier, more compassionate society. Now, therefore, I, Nigel Herbig, Mayor of the City of Kenmore, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim September 2025 to be National Recovery Month throughout the City of Kenmore. That brings us to my favorite piece of the agenda. Where's the fun? City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. This evening, we have a slide deck that highlights a few of our recent events.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Good evening. For those of you that I haven't met yet, my name is Allison Jenkins. I'm the Events and Volunteer Coordinator here with the City of Kenmore. I just started this position in April and dove straight into summer event season. So I'm here tonight to just sort of give you guys a quick recap of how things went. I also do not love public speaking, so I'll be reading my notes. Hello, first of all. First up, we had, in partnership with the city's DEIA committee, the City of Kenmore helped put on 2 DEIA events this summer. The Juneteenth celebration happened on Wednesday, June 18th, just across the street at Town Square. We had several nonprofit partner booths set up. We saw 3 school performances and a few educational crafts and activities. We also handed out about 360 mini red velvet cupcakes, which was a hit. We also kicked off Pride Month celebration with raising the Pride flag at City Hall. Mayor Herbig read the city's proclamation and the community took turns helping to raise the flag. And then on June 25th, the city hosted its first ever Pride event at Town Square. We had 13 community groups that joined us to share information and resources with our Kenmore neighbors. We were also joined by C89.5, which was a new thing for us, and they're a local nonprofit run radio station. It was a fun addition to the event. They played music during the event, but they also advertised in the days and weeks leading up to the event, so that was really awesome. So there was that, and then we moved on to 4th of July. Saw a huge number of community members show up to celebrate at Log Boom Park. We estimated there were over 5,000 folks throughout the event. We welcome back Frank Lumber as presenting sponsor, so big thank you to Frank Lumber. As this was my first year working this event, it was overwhelming to say the least. So I leaned heavily into the expertise of our incredible staff and Police Chief Moen. We met weekly to review and improve traffic control and shuttle routes to ensure pedestrian safety and shuttle service efficiency. We added a few more food trucks, and lines for arts and crafts and face painting were never ending. And we ended the night with an eventful fireworks show, to say the least. Next up, we had our summer concert series. So between July and August, we held a total of 4 outdoor concerts at St. Edward's Park. We had 2 band level member sponsors, so North Shore Utility District and Hot Works Bothell, both partnered with us, so thank you to them. We had really good turnouts, our highest attendance being around 600 attendees. We had community booths, food trucks, and giveaways at each show, and Hank Heron was on site for 3 of the events. He's a beloved member of our community, always a big hit. The musical groups were really fun and diverse, highlighted the diversity of our community. These Thursday nights were by far my favorite nights of the summer. That was great. And then we also had our movie nights. The text is off, sorry about that. We had our outdoor movie nights, again, over at Town Square. This year we showed Captain America: Brave New World, and then we also showed Inside Out 2. Averaged about 100 attendees at each movie, handed out tons of popcorn and candy, and we integrated some fun art projects to keep the kids engaged before the movie. And then our last event of the summer was Play Day, which took place a few weeks ago on Saturday, August 16th. We were a little worried because the day started off gray and drizzly, but the weather cleared up. Community came out to play. We had performances by a couple local kids entertainer groups, some physical activities like pickleball and cheer lessons. We had 14 different vendor partners and some big inflatables. So that was a fun day. And lastly, I just wanted to give a big thank you to the Kenmore staff. These events wouldn't happen without the incredible public works team and every single staff volunteer that help man the city booth, come early to help set up and stay late to help tear down. And our staff genuinely shows up with smiles on their faces, ready to interact with our community. So huge thank you to them and to all of you for letting me speak tonight.
Thank you so much. The events this summer were a lot of fun, and you killed it. So thank you so much for all your
Thank
hard
you.
work this summer.
Thanks.
And I know the people of Kenmore really appreciate it. That brings us over to public comment. We want to welcome folks to the council's meeting. We ask you please address your comments to the mayor and the council. Folks are going to get 3 minutes to speak. The clerk will call your name when it's your turn. Please state your name and city of residence and keep within the allotted time. To make every person feel welcome and safe, we ask that folks please refrain from booing, clapping, heckling, yelling, or other interruptions. Please note, under Washington State law, public comment time may not be used to support or oppose candidates or ballot measures. Thank you for keeping your remarks focused on city business. The meeting is recorded for transparency. Thank you for being here and for sharing your input respectfully. Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Looks like we have 5 individuals signed up for on-site public comment, and this evening we have 0 virtuals. We will start off with Janet Hayes, followed by Stacey Valenzuela.
Hi, I'm Janet Hayes, and I've been a resident of Kenmore since 1998. I'm very sad and have been for all of the things life gives us. And one of them is losing people. I lost my mom on July 26th, and I lost Patrick O'Brien on the 28th. It's an empty place that's left. And I realize how important he was to the city. All the things he carried and paid attention to everyone, his neighbors. He took care of people. He took my mom to the airport when she needed to go south. She passed away at 104. Patrick was too young to pass away. What we fought for, and he helped me so much, was the fact that the city of Kenmore seems to bypass public comment, people who make public comment. They listen. Do they do any homework? Do they do any searching themselves like Patrick did? Or like I do? Or like the few that come in to speak? I don't know. But Patrick O'Brien spent his life trying to alert the residents, all of the councils we've ever had since I've been here, and all of the staffs for over 25 years. His way to explaining all the things he knew was by public comment, using public comment. We never saw much action after his public comment. Some complaints, but he kept going. The Kenmore Industrial Park, he always fought for. The asphalt plant fumes that he took in every day and tried to find out what we were breathing. I could call him in the morning and say it's on its way to your house, because it was directly to his house. The Kenmore Industrial
you.
Park, Lake Point, has not had comprehensive core testing since 1981. That was when Gary Sargent had his first plan and drawings about what he wanted Lake Point to be.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. I'm sorry, but your time is up. I appreciate your time.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
for Patrick, I will continue asking, why no testing?
Thank you, Ms. Hayes.
Stacy Valenzuela, followed by Jim Myers.
Stacy Valenzuela, Kenmore. Sadly, we lost another concerned neighbor, Patrick O'Brien, that for years came forward expressing how sick the emissions were making his neighbors, his dogs, himself. He came forward because he cared deeply about the contamination of our waterways, Lake Point landfill. Offering remedies, high on his list was the stationary air monitor for VOCs and particulates. The city has an opportunity to listen, support, and assist with actions to stop these wrongs, start the healing for our residents and the treasures of Kenmore. From our residents speaking up, PSCAA had the opportunity to perform testing on the emissions and confirmed it's not just steam. The permit for the asphalt plant was granted with 21 additional stipulations and no longer grandfathered in. It was more than 50 years after the Clean Air Act was adopted. Many residents continue to be concerned of what's in our air, water, soil, seeping into their homes, on their sheets, in their lungs, and grit in their mouth. They would like the city to come forward with real action, cleanup plan, and enforcement. There is reasonable obligation and responsibility, both morally and civically, for public health and safety, especially when the data shows the high rates of lung cancer, lung disease, and asthma. We hope that for our community, the city will use funds and finally request the health evaluation epidemiology study for Kenmore. Work with Cadman Heidelberg to add rows of trees, bushes at levels to block part of the particulate matter and soot from reaching our homes, businesses, and waterways, and request that with our help, install a few stationary air monitors in close proximity to 6 order points that measure VOC and particulate matter with the resident warning system to close windows when harmful levels are reached. David Morgan has some suggestions on parts. In Patrick's memory, I ask for the city to stop the suffering, support our neighbors' health, and take steps for cleaner air on your watch. Thank you.
Jim Myers, followed by Elizabeth Mooney and John Hendrickson.
Hello, good evening, council. My name is Jim Myers. I'm a resident of Kenmore. And like others, sometimes we need something to sort of push us to action. And I guess Patrick's passing reminds us that there are a lot of things that he cared deeply about, although Patrick was my friend and I didn't agree on everything he said. And I didn't agree always on how he said it, but he did have a good heart. Although it didn't always come out that way. But Patrick's passing helps motivate us to bring to light or to continue acting on a lot of issues that he believed in. Certainly Cadman is one of the areas where the city and Patrick were united in a goal to ensure the health of the people of Kenmore and the people who pass through Kenmore. But there's more work that needs to be done. It's work unfinished, and I think it was well said ways that can be addressed. I think he was also a great advocate for having the discussion of Lake Point be as public and open as possible, and to bring in all views so that we could come to some sort of consensus of the best use of that land. And so that's it. Thank you.
So it's 3 minutes. Elizabeth Mooney. It's a lot easier to come up here with Patrick because he was bold and angry at things not being done. So thankfully, I didn't have the heart or the strength to gather the people that have just spoken. So thank you to Sharon and Bobby and Stacy and Janet and my husband, Jim. It's just going to be a lot harder without his strong voice telling you guys to, whether it's staff or citizens or council, you got to fight hard to get the air pollution, the toxins known. Anyway, here's what I wrote. Hello, City Council. My name is Elizabeth Mooney. I'm here tonight because of my friends being strong to make a plan to attend this meeting. We've lost Patrick O'Brien, my friend, our friend, one of the bravest, wisest, loudest people I've ever known. He gave us strength for our families, my grandkids, to swim, to demand clean air when the stacks from the asphalt company spewed bad pollution. He lived in those plumes more than a lot of other people in Kenmore simply because that's the way the wind usually blows. It wasn't fair. But he didn't give up, and I don't want us to give up. He kept our momentum to ask for what we all wanted for our city: safe air to breathe, safe waters in which to swim, safe land, maybe, to have at Lake Point, but you can't just do it blindly. Thanks to his family and our friends, we're here together tonight to honor our friend and what he stood for and what he asked for loudly, whom we lost to a heart attack way too soon. We want to ask to work together in the future to honor his wishes to carry on for air monitoring, at least what Stacy was talking about, for VOCs on city property near the asphalt company to protect our city, our citizens, our visitors, our bikers, our walkers, our dogs from unhealthy air pollution. We can do that. All we have to do is spend some money on monitors on city property and that we put up signs because they're here for money and we're here for health and doing the right thing. And Patrick may have been a little too loud. So let's work together. And we've got a new city manager. Hi, I'm Elizabeth. Let's work together. Thank you. And God bless Peter. Peter? I don't know why I said that. God bless Patrick. Was that his middle name?
Evening, John Hendrickson, Kenmore, Washington. Benjamin Franklin had a saying, when emotions go up, intelligence goes down. And I read that in a biography. He was talking to John Adams during the Continental Congress to vote on the Declaration of Independence, and he couldn't get people to get the votes. And he couldn't believe, since he's from Massachusetts and they had been shedding blood since the Boston Massacre in 1770 to Concord and Lexington in 1775, how these people weren't thoughtful enough to support the Declaration. And he would get upset. And he would get upset, kind of like Patrick O'Brien would get upset. And so I think Patrick had that in common with him. And not just that, but Patrick spoke valuable truths, as John Locke did during the Declaration. And they both cared deeply about common people being abused by people in positions of authority and speaking out for the truth for the benefit of the public, not for himself. So the main three things that I remember that Patrick was focusing on was the public works site, an unbelievable cost that if you look at our original feasibility study that we cannot afford, but Rob Carlindsey was a huge spender, Terry Gilmore. He did great at getting grants, but his spending, if you look at it, seems very wasteful. So I think the council you've changed the rules that you can, maybe you don't need a super majority for the vote for the debt on that. I'm not sure. I heard something about it. I haven't been following you guys. If you did that for only a simple majority to put us in all that debt, that's unconscionable. Patrick would be upset. The Lake Point issue, what is the true value of Lake Point? You have to look at the physical impairments and the toxic waste impairments. I've got the county assessor's office list of the taxable assessed value here. I'm going to give it to the city clerk for you. They constantly would go in and appeal their assessment. And when they appealed it in 99, they didn't actually win the appeal, but the next year their taxable value went down from 6.7 million to 6.4 million. The same thing in 2001. Taxable value went down after appeal from 6.4 to 5.5 million. And in 2009, taxable value went down from 6.9 to 5.3 million. The whole time Gary Sargent wanted 40-something million. And he's not including the toxic waste in. So look at what his appeals are and get to a true value of what Lake Point is. And finally, we need the stationary air monitors that folks have been talking about. They got one over in Lake Forest Park. Try to protect all the people in the
Thank
condos
you.
with all the soot coming into their homes. Thank you.
Mayor, that includes public comment. That concludes public comment.
All right. I want to thank everybody who came to public comment. I know that we're all going to miss Pat, even if we didn't always agree with Pat. He was as people said, a loud voice. His heart was in the right place, and we're going to miss him. So thank you for coming today. Really appreciate it. That brings us to our consent agenda. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
I'll second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The consent agenda is approved unanimously. That brings us to introduction of new staff. And we're going to start off with Civil Engineer Lucas Fowler. Are these first, are these all your folks, Samantha? Are these all your folks? Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Lucas Fowler. Lucas is our new civil engineer. He recently graduated from the University of Washington, which as a Cougar, I don't hold that against him. He graduated in June with a civil engineering degree. He filled our new position of civil engineer that was approved in our last budget last year. So Lucas is going to be taking on a lot of duties that we haven't been able to accomplish over the last couple of years. So he's going to be managing our ADA transition plan. So he'll be putting together all the plans and specifications and starting to implement that and working towards us bringing everything into compliance. So we're already working on the first project and we'll be putting something out to bid next year. He's also going to be taking over all of our traffic service requests. So anything related to traffic goes to his little court, which he's taking that over from Tobin. So Tobin's very happy to hand those off. And then he's also going to be helping with our pavement management program. So helping with our pavement seals and pavement assessments. And he's also going to be working on helping us with our preliminary engineering analysis for our capital projects. So we have been taking all of our projects and getting a preliminary design from our consultants. We're going to be doing some of that in-house so that we can, one, save quite a lot of money, but also work with over the shoulder with our engineers. So we're being more efficient with our time and our resources. And so he's going to be doing a lot of that working with our project managers. And then also he'll be dealing with a lot of our small traffic related projects. So, and then I don't know if you recognize the name or the face, but Lucas was our traffic intern a couple years ago. So he is very familiar with a lot of our traffic related issues and has dealt with a lot of our service requests and has had to write a lot of memos and deal with a lot of things related to traffic. So he's very familiar with our process and it was very easy to bring him on board. And so we're very thrilled to have him, and he's been taken off and running, going, and hasn't had a lot of introduction I've had to do with it, and I love it. So nice, easy start. So if there's anything you want to say, he's a quiet one. So he's the opposite of Tobin.
All I'll say is I grew up in Bothell, so I'm very familiar with the Kenmore area. I went to Bothell High School. And it's been cool to see how the city has, transformed. And I'm very excited to work here. So that's all I'll say.
Thank you so much. Welcome. Next, we have Code Compliance Officer Caitlin Grimm. And Permit Coordinator Tessa Sidhat and Senior Building Plans Examiner Brendan Bray. There we go.
Okay, so just as an introduction for development services, we have Caitlin, Brendan, and Tessa. We're so excited that we have all of our positions filled right now. These aren't new, these are just filled positions that are really important to the department, to the city. So I'm excited for you guys to meet them. Go ahead.
Hi.
Yeah, could you turn your mic?
Hi.
Thank you.
I'm Caitlin Grimm. I'm the new code enforcement officer. I've been here for about 4 months or so. I'm loving it. I came from Seattle Animal Control. I worked there for about 5.5 years, so I do have experience in civil and criminal investigations. I was also born and raised in Bothell. I am a fellow Cougar. So I do know the area very well as well. You also might know me because I brought in a llama at the last meeting, so I do have a hobby farm at home. But yeah, I'm excited to be here and very excited to move forward with all of the cases.
We're happy you're here.
I guess it's my turn. I'm Brendan Bray. I am your new senior plans examiner. Hopefully I can be as much help to citizens, contractors, developers, whoever needs a hand in building planning. I have lots of experience. Commercial construction for, I think, 33, 34 years. So I have a good grasp of construction and what goes on, how to do it, how to take a 2D drawing, turn it into reality. That's about it.
Hi, my name is Tessa Satat. I am the new permit coordinator for development services. And before this, I worked at the state at DSHS. So I do have experience with working with the public. But yeah, I'm just really excited to be here and really excited in my new role. Thank you.
Fantastic. I know we're all excited to see development services fully staffed, so. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. And last, but certainly not least, our new city manager, Terry Kilgore. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I am so excited. This is my first meeting on my first day. So thank you for giving us a light agenda, for giving me a chance to catch up. I am coming to you most recently from Scottsdale, Arizona, where it is currently 103 degrees. So I'm a little cold, even though everyone's talking about how hot they are. So I'm excited to be back in the Northwest. I'm a Husky, go Dogs. And my husband's a native Washingtonian, so we're excited to be back at what he calls the homeland. You know, I'm really excited to join Kenmore. I have almost 25, almost 30 years, somewhere in that range, in local government and public sector. I started my career private sector doing management consulting for Deloitte. So I always bring that sense of how can we, even if we're doing something really great, how can we always do it better and continuously improve and be creative? So I love what I've seen so far. Everyone has been so very welcoming. I really appreciate that. And I look forward to working with everyone in this room to achieve even more great things for Kenmore. So thank you.
Thank you. We're excited to work with you. All right, this brings us to our one and only item on the business agenda. Second quarter financial report presented by Finance and Administration Director Melinda Morrell.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm excited to be here and talk about the second quarter report for you. Things are looking good so far. I will just start off by saying that. There's no big surprises along the way. So I guess I need to, sorry, wrong button. There we go. Okay, so we are looking at 6/30/2025, and we are 25% through the biennium. It's a lot of 25s. So as you look at the column on the right, things should align closely with 25%, give or take. I will explain a little bit more for the benefit of Terry of how I do this. And so anything that is a larger outlier, I will make sure that I explain the why behind the outlier, whether it's high or low. And sometimes I might skip something if it's just not material, if it's a small amount, but small dollar amount. But anyway, that's how I approach these reports, going into the revenues and expenditures and some other areas. So you can see in total, for total revenues, we are at 28.3%, a little bit up for the year. A big reason that we're up, as you can see, is a lot of investment interest. So that higher interest rate, although we don't like it in some regards, we do like it when it comes to getting interest. And so we are ahead of target on that front. Another area that we're doing great in is development fees and permits. Thank goodness we are fully staffed because we need the people to help us process all these permits. So permit activity is up for the year, and so we are ahead of target there. Any questions on this report or this page? So for expenditures, again, looking down at the percentages in total, we are at 22.6%. So if you just think of overall, again, and this is just for general fund. So overall revenues are up a little bit, expenditures are down. That's a good way to start, right? The first 6 months of the biennium. So some of the things that are a little off here is, I mentioned this before, legal, shockingly. Thank you, Dawn, for reducing your hours. I don't know. But yeah, we just don't have as much legal expenses coming through. And they had been going up and up and up. So we budgeted a lot higher to cover for that, but we haven't needed it. So we will be thankful for that. We also record some of the legal costs in our CIP in our construction budgets, so our capital budgets. So some of it is there, but really overall it's still low. We have not done any transfers yet this year, so that's why that's a 0. That's purely an accounting transaction. Special projects. We do have several projects in there related to housing and human services and environmental services, and those projects either are in the works or have not started yet. And the main thing that's coming out of the special projects is, at this point, is some salary. So, and if you recall, most of those dollars were earmarked one-time dollars. So we were using reserves to cover those costs. Let's see what else is on here. Housing and Human Services is running a little lower. I know that one of the reasons is they're getting their, what's it called? Their new agreement, their new project plan. Their strategic plan has been slower to get that work to get done. So that's a large contract that hasn't been completed yet. And then events, volunteers, and recreation, just a lot of costs that hadn't hit yet. You saw all the things that happened. So there was a lot of expenses that happened after 6:30. So that will ramp up. So general fund, to remind everybody, we have a 20% reserve requirement. So 20%, as it says in the reserve policy, we shall maintain reserves of not less than 20% of our annual operating expenditures. So that number is 3.8 million for this biennium, and we currently have 11.5 million. So I don't know about you, but it's the biggest number I've seen since I've been here. So that's a nice big number. And part of the reason is because we have dollars for the PWOC. So we have a lot of money that we have set aside for that. Investment schedule. So speaking of making a lot of interest, you can see here all the different ways that we have that we're holding our dollars. So the top section are all of our bonds. So we have about $12 million in bonds that have maturity dates down the middle that mature, you know, every 6 to 12 months. We try to do it in that time frame. All the yields are pretty nice. Our average yield, which is in the top corner, is 3.81%. So that's pretty good, bringing us in lots of money. And then we have money sitting in our checking and savings account that is, you know, obviously used to pay payroll and other costs, especially big project costs. We need to have some dollars that are readily available there. And then we have more dollars that are either considered very liquid in like money market accounts or in the LGIP, which is the Local Government Investment Program. And so, again, those are all earning lots of big interest rates. So we are happy with how that's going so far. So this is our street fund. As the prior city manager always said, we try to look at both the street fund and the general fund in conjunction because they support one another basically, and dollars the work is very relevant. We're doing a lot of, this is the revenues, but we're doing a lot of street activity. You'll see on the expenditure side. So this is a very important budget for us to stay on top of and make sure everything's running smoothly. As you can see, we are getting a lot of permit fees, which goes in line with the earlier chart where I talked about lots of development happening. So we're already ahead of our biennial budget there. So that's really good. We have transfers that are happening from the TBD, which is Transportation Benefit District Fund. So a little bit of that's been recorded. We will continue to record that over the course of the year. And everything else is looking pretty good for revenues. On the expenditure side, again, total expenditures at 26.8%. We're where we expect to be. We do pay some salaries out of this fund and then do lots of different street maintenance and operations. CAPE. So CAPE, this is the real straightforward version of CAPE. I just want to let you guys know that my team has taken a real deep dive into CAPE because there's some confusion with the reports we get from King County, and we just want to make sure we have a really good handle on not just the revenue, but also the expenditures, which again gets really complicated. So, so this is where we're at, but just know that there will be more coming forward. We were going to do a lot more analysis over the next month to really make sure that we know, like, if we add a new camera, you know, what's the cost benefit of adding a new camera, right? How much is it making us? How much are we paying, right? And does it make sense? Because we have, so far we have 40,000 through August, 40,000 speeding infractions, light infractions. 40,000. That's huge. That's double Bellevue's. So, and what also is happening is that means that we are overwhelming the court system and they're needing to hire more people to support that. And so what does that cost look like? We're in uncharted territory. So I'm giving you what I know today, but just know there's a lot more to unpack with CAPE. And it's a lot of work. So we've dove in, but now it's like, whoa, you know, where are we headed? How much work is this? So just letting you know that. Okay, back to the chart. So so far through 6/30, 1.3 million out of the 5.4 budgeted. Just so you know, if you think about 40,000 infractions, we're estimated by the county to have 60,000 by the end of the year. 60,000 at $100. Anyone do the math? $6 million. That's for 1 year. And we have a budget of revenue of like 2.3, I think, is for just for the 1 year. And we theoretically could have 6 million. So I don't know if that's going to come through. I don't know how much gets dismissed through the courts because they're overwhelmed. Anyway, it's a lot going on. So we're right on target at 23.9%. And then salaries and benefits and some of the other costs. I don't have all the information why we haven't spent all that, but I do have information. I want to make sure I say the right thing. CAPE. Oh yeah, I thought this was it. So you met someone a minute ago, Lucas. And what is Lucas doing? He's helping with CAPE. Now, when we do our budget, we budget for salary and benefit for the whole year unless we know distinctly otherwise. So Lucas did not come on until recently, and so all those dollars were not spent in salaries and budgets until recently. So he's the reason why our salaries and benefits are low. And then what else was I going to tell you? Oh, also there's a partial charge from someone named Charles Kaufman, who also helps out. 25% of his pay goes to CAPE. And so he started at the end of February. So that's the main reason salaries and benefits are low. And then transfers will happen later in the year. I can't do those transfers until I know how much we have in the other budgets, in the other funds to bring over. So, or to transfer out in this case. This is a transfer out. So I have to see how we end the year with all of our costs and everything. Okay,
Sorry, quick
Yeah.
question on the last table there.
Yeah.
Cape program costs, is that the vendor?
yes,
Okay. thank you.
yes. Yeah, so VM is Vera Mobility. So it's all their charges, and we have different buckets of how they charge us based on how many infractions there are, and once we go over a certain amount, then it's charged at another rate and all that. So again, everything is just moving in all over the place, so. So the Public Works Operations Center, things are moving along. This is really cool to hear things going. But we still are in the kind of infancy stages. We are having we're having the site work done. So the site work is being done now, and the actual construction is slated to happen between January of 26 through January of 27. So that will obviously, a lot of larger charges will start happening in 2026. So we just aren't seeing those really large charges happening yet. So we don't anticipate revenues other than interest income and then some fund transfers to help pay for the costs. I have good news though. And I think Rob alluded to this before he left, but initially we said that we were going to be paying $900,000 per year, right? Let me make sure I'm saying this right. 900 per year from each fund. So Read and Swim are slated in the budget to contribute 900,000 to help support the debt payment. After we finished the actual issuance of the bonds and all that, we only now need 800,000 from each. So we've lowered 200,000 or 400,000 for the biennium of costs that we budgeted for that, but actually we can lower it. So pretty exciting that our annual budget, instead of 3.6, I'll revise it down during the budget amendment to 3.2. That's pretty
Councilor
cool.
Lutz, sorry, that is great news. Councilor Lutzis?
Just going back to that, you said that was to pay the debt service, is that
The debt
correct?
service, yeah.
Maybe there's an obvious answer to this, but is there anything wrong with keeping it at what we budgeted and maybe contributing a little extra toward the debt service ahead of time to pay down some of that quicker, or does
That's a
it?
great question. I will take that under advisement.
Sure thing, sure thing. I mean, pennies add up, so I'm
Right,
just.
Right, yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
I'd have to look at the legality for the larger debt that we have, but maybe some of the smaller ones we could pay off sooner. Yeah,
I might also point out, though, that with the interest rates as high as they are currently, we're probably actually getting more from having money sitting in the bank than we are by paying down something quickly. But, we have to model that out.
yeah. I think some of it's lower. The main debt that we have is 5%, so. Good questions, love it. Okay, next. Surface water, so this is, I just kind of give you a very high overview of how our storm drainage fees are coming in. They're at 26%, that's looking great. Our expenses are running low at 12%, and it's because we haven't done transfers yet. So we will do transfers out of Surface Water Management Fund to support the general fund and to support the debt. So those haven't been done yet. Impact fees. Again, the impact fees are a byproduct of all the development that we do. And so that's why these are a lot higher than we anticipated at this point in the budget year. So REIT, real estate excise taxes, and TBD, which is our Transportation Benefit District Fund. They are sitting at, 21.7 and 24.6% of what we anticipate for bringing in revenue at this point of the year. So those are looking really good. So in summary, we've spent, elapsed 25% of the biennium. General fund revenues expenditures are very close to target. Our interest revenue biennium to date has brought in 230,000 for the general fund, nice big number. I mentioned development fees and permits revenues very high. Right-of-way permit fees revenue in the street fund is very high. The impact fees are very high. And the public works debt costs are lower than budgeted, and construction costs are slowly ramping up. What questions can I answer?
Councilor Marshall?
Back to Cape, some of the impacts also involved maybe extra police personnel to review an increasing volume of those?
Not yet.
Not
But
yet.
yeah, and so far they've been able to manage it. And I don't know if Stephanie, you've heard anything on that, but it's been quiet. So I don't think there's a new development about that, but so far they're managing it. That's all that, I don't have
Okay.
an update other than that, but that could be an issue.
Right, that's
Yes.
minimum question. It could be an issue.
could still
might
be an
coming
issue.
up. Okay. And then the court cost, it might be anticipated that the judiciary, I think it is they're going to want to perhaps hire extra personnel to deal with the
Yes.
increased volume.
They are going to, yes.
They are. And we
Mhm.
do we know any ballpark of
No.
how much more they want?
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
we're waiting on that information. So part of the problem is, just to give you an idea of our struggle, so we didn't get our reconciliation for 2024 until this past August. So we waited till August to get the reconciliation. And included in the reconciliation is basically they hold on to all the activity and the money, if this makes sense. I can explain more, but just know that we don't even know our true expenses until we get the reconciliation done. So in January, I have to wait 18 months to get a reconciliation for what happened in that January. So it's a struggle. The struggle is real. We're working through it. We're going to figure out ways to make estimations and allocations and do the best we can. And we're on this whole brand new trajectory. Like, we haven't done this before. So we don't have anything to look back on and to help us figure this out. So we're going to do the best we can to make better estimations and make sure we have a clear picture of that cost benefit of CAPE.
Councilor Sassen?
Thank you. I have two questions. The first is also Cape related. I'm sorry. Are there other cities who've done a similar intervention with Cape that you could look to for tips and advice on how to manage this, do you think?
From the numbers I just looked at today, there's no one in this ballpark.
People need to slow down. I mean, seriously, I mean, my husband was driving down Simon's Road today, and the car in front of him was tired of going 30 miles an hour, and they drove across the double yellow line, around the car to go 60 down to, so we have an interesting situation. Well, I hear you saying that this is a huge amount of work, and I'm hoping that you have the staffing that you need, and we'll
We'll
leave
let
that
you
to you
know,
all to
but yeah,
figure that out. My second question, I feel like is always when you give us a summary, what is it that's keeping you up at night that we should know about?
I was going to make a comment about our new fearless city manager, and so nothing today. I'm not a worrier, so I don't have anything that's making me worry today, but I loved your comment. I will read from what she said, and she said, talking about top priorities, and she said, an early area focus will be a deeper dive into city finances and the recommendations of the FSP task force to build a plan for addressing the gaps. So I think my biggest thing is the ballot measure coming up, and other things that we need to think about that's a little bit further down the road. But today in this report and what I'm seeing, like, everything's looking good. Everything's clicking along, so.
Any other questions? I'm actually this is kind of a long Councilor Sassen's question, but have we started to think Or have you heard any rustlings that maybe the ongoing tariff situation might impact things for the city in any way, like with upcoming construction or?
Yeah, I mean, not yet.
Okay.
No, I haven't. So I haven't noticed any uptick in any area where it's like, oh, they have more than usual, costs of goods, blah, blah, blah happening. It's been pretty quiet. Personally, yes, I'm feeling the impacts, but no, not so much here.
All right. Checking, last call for questions. Councilor Lutzis.
I just want to thank you. I mean, you hit on a lot of things that I have asked about repeatedly too, so I appreciate being kept up to date on these, and things are, cautiously optimistic. So that's great to see, especially when it comes to our investments. I was looking at what you had up there that were the LGIPs at 4.39%, which caught my eye because I felt like that was higher than I recall it being. So that's pretty good. Especially, in comparison to our treasuries that we have. Now, do we invest in anything besides treasuries and LGIP and then, of course,
No.
our liquid
No.
assets? No,
Mm-mm.
okay.
We're only allowed to do like those types of bonds that we do. That's all we're allowed to do. Besides having a money market or LGIP.
Okay, yeah. I know that there's a growing trend of other types of investments that other organizations and cities, public organizations, governments are doing too. And so we'll see. One that I've heard a lot about are agencies, but the U.S. agencies, but anyways, thank you.
Councilor Marshall.
I should have asked this earlier, but it's a little bit beyond the scope, but just overall, do we still anticipate that our expenses are going to exceed revenues in several years?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. That's why I'm so
If
happy.
unchanged,
Yes,
yeah.
that is unchanged. Absolutely. Yes.
Any further questions? All right.
Thanks so
Thank you
much.
so much, Melinda. Brings us to staff reports. City manager, do we have anything to report? All right. Council member reports and comments. Council member Culver.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank members of the community who came to speak up and remember their friend, Patrick O'Brien. I think we need to honor him and remember him with the ask that the community put forward. There've been repeated asks for testing of all sorts, and that's a whole big conversation. And I think this council should take it up as a point of discussion. So I would like to bring this back as an agenda item for this council to discuss, and I would kindly ask for a second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Councilmember Culver, do you want to speak to your motion?
Yeah, community voices matter in Kenmore, and public health and safety are paramount. And I think there are some long-standing questions that have long gone unanswered to the sort of satisfaction and adequacy that our community is asking for. So I would implore us to answer that call. I would ask my colleagues to vote yes. Thank you.
Councilor Marshall.
And I have a slightly different take, but I still support the motion. It's just that I think it's useful to have a presentation on what we have achieved as this council and what we have done and remaining questions. There are questions that when we spent a great deal of money on investigation and the regulatory interventions, and we got reports back from CADMAN itself. And I remember, yes, there are questions, for instance, like I believe it's something like some large amount of tonnage as it's measured that the place expels. And no, we don't know precisely how it's dispersed or direction, et cetera, et cetera. There are things that we don't know. But I would like to, at least, I'd be in favor of a summary of what we've done, where we're at.
Councilor Shubnik.
Yeah, and friendly amendment to that. What's in the plan as well, particularly around Lake Point, if we do go forward with that. And I would like to put a pin in particularly the stationary air quality monitors, what's been looked at thus far and what we could theoretically do. What are kind of the pros and cons of that particular item?
Councilmember Lucis.
Yes, two things really quick. Friendly comment to Councilmember Culver, if it would be possible for some specificity around the type of testing. I think we're all on the same page, assuming, talking about the Cadman plant and Lake Point and everything else. But the motion itself was testing broadly, and I think just to make sure that we're all on the same page, that would be helpful. But kind of keeping in line that assumption of both the Cadman plant and Lake Point too, I think in addition to what we have been doing, what we plan to do as well, and the dollars that we have set aside earmarked for Lake Point testing and doing our due diligence, and because we have received some grant funding that is specifically designed for, or specifically aimed at doing testing at due diligence and making sure that we have that, and making sure that we're clear with our community too on what we plan to do, how much we have set aside for that before we take any significant steps further. I think that would be helpful to, again, maybe just have a brief report on.
Councilmember Sassen.
Yeah, I want to thank Councilmember Culver for bringing this to our attention. I made a nearly identical note as Councilmember Marshall, which was to ask for a staff report regarding Cadman and the asphalt and the air monitoring on city property. What's been done? What can we do? What would the costs be? And I agree that that's really what we should be doing in Patrick's honor.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I concur with actually all statements, and I do want to just draw attention to, with the funding that we have for the testing, making sure our community knows exactly what is queued up and what we're going to do is ensure that there's full transparency. So an update on what the plan is and what testing will be done at Lake Point itself. And I think the air monitoring and action related to Cadman is incredibly important. We have lost an important voice that consistently spoke about the issues there. So anyway, I support that we have further discussion, but I do want to call attention that we have actually been doing some good work there. So, this is kind of tagging on to work that's already queued up, and I have faith that we as a council will do the right things for our community and the environment on those properties. Thank you.
Yeah, I think a reminder of what the work we have done and then options on what we can continue to do or additionally do, I think would be a good discussion to have. To be clear for the public, we won't be able to do any actual testing on Lake Point until or if we have an agreement from the property owner, because we can't just go in there ourselves and do core testing without their buy-in. So a lot of questions as to whether we will be able to do that sort of core testing on Lake Point. It's something we'd like to do. It's something we would absolutely have to do before we were to do anything with Lake Point, and it's something we've always been planning to do. If the property owner, agrees that they are open to sell, and then there's a lot of due diligence, and that is a huge part of it, is making sure that we're doing intensive core testing on there, because we don't want to we don't want to buy a liability or buy something that turns out is not safe for humans to use. So that's that. I wish that we could just march on there right now and do core testing, but we simply do not have the legal authority to do that. I think it's worth having a discussion around the site air testing. Yeah, I think it's worth to have a conversation around that and see what the pluses and minuses are of doing it offsite, or not, not directly at the source, because I think there are questions about the veracity of the information that we'll get there. But I think there hopefully somebody smarter than me can figure out a way that we can make that work and get us some data that's actually useful. So I think it's worth having a conversation. I appreciate Councilmember Culver for bringing it up. Anything further, Councilmember Culver?
If we don't need a vote, no, that's it for me. Thank you.
No, we've got, as far as I'm concerned, we have consensus, so it'll get added to an agenda in the future. Councilmember Marshall.
Yes, I think since we went on a break, I believe Streamfest was held. And I want to thank Elizabeth Mooney and the city staff and all the other wonderful players for getting that together. I had a good time. and remembered a stream that I grew up with that has since been buried. But some wonderful efforts of stream restoration by the different organizations and other environmental groups to save woods as well. So that was a great time. I wanted to urge everybody again to read a certain study by the Housing and Urban Development, the last Biden report of the Housing and Urban Development from December of 2024 on homelessness. And if you haven't read it yet, please take a look at it again. Help me interpret it as it comes appropriate if we revisit this again, as we probably will. But just in terms of what sort of housing appears to have worked and not worked in that report, according to this latest data. And the very first graphic you see in that report shows permanent supportive type of housing increasing and being built and emergency shelters going down. And it ends at the point then where we have the greatest homeless count in history. This is according to the HUD Biden 2024 report. So it begs the question, okay, should we be looking at a range of options and not just perhaps one type or perhaps one type over another? And certainly it seems that the permanent supportive is not entirely the answer. And then if everybody could take a look at, if you got any spare moments, a great book by Professor Ensign of University of Washington. It's called Skid Road. It's the new Skid Road, not the old Skid Road, about Seattle history by Murray Morgan that we all learned in high school, or those of us around here did. But in that, Professor Ensign says that we really should come down from the high, hard ground of policy and statistics and get down into the thick of problems like homelessness. There's give and take, there's compromise, there's mucking about, as she says, in a very complex, dynamic issue. And I hope we can all consider that when we get to that later this year or anywhere in the future, and appreciate your listening on that. And I also would like to express my deepest condolences to the family of Patrick O'Brien. He will be missed.
Councilmember Sassen.
Patrick O'Brien really will be missed. I feel shocked and sad. And so, what's happening? Anyway, I also want to acknowledge the phenomenal work of Stephanie Lukash as our interim city manager through the summer. Your dedication and your excellence and your just willingness to stick with us here is valued and appreciated beyond my ability to say. And I know that you and Tammy Cork are quite the team, and she's not here today, so I can't thank her in person, but I will look forward to how we move into this next phase in the fall. And, if council can be of any support, you'll please let us know. And I want to welcome Terry Kilgore. We're delighted to have you back in the Pacific Northwest. And you will be cold. This room is particularly cold. And don't come to this room without a sweater. I think that's all I have to say in this moment. There's more to come.
Councilmember Shubnik.
A few things. RPC Regional Policy Committee has been very active. It's hard to even know. So for any of you who are interested, starting in January and being an RPC or signing up for it in December when we get our call for SCA committees, let me know, and or anything like that. Growth Management Planning Council. I've been on a bunch of SCA committees, so be happy to talk about any or all, but RPC takes a fair amount of time. We've been mostly delving into reports on the various levies, Best Starts for Kids, MID, we used to be called VSHIZL, the Vets and Seniors and Human Services Levy, And then, of course, we spent a fair amount of time on the parks levy that we just passed. So those are the kinds of things. It's a very active and decision-making body. There's a couple of other things. One, I just want to comment on the PSH, the permanent supported housing issue. You know, people who are homeless are not monolithic. And the intent of PSH is to tailor supports to the needs of the individuals that are in it. And it itself is highly successful in keeping people stably housed, which is its goal. There are many other things you could look at. And of course, if you're looking at the number of people who are homeless in the aggregate in the community, that will not be solved simply by PSH. You have many other forces that are moving people from being housed into homelessness, not the least of which is the high price of housing. So just wanted to comment on that. And then the last thing, and probably the most important, NUSA, our North Urban Human Services Alliance, asked us to support, they wrote a letter of support for King County's motion 16848, which reaffirms the county's commitment to being a welcoming and supportive community for immigrants and refugees. And they asked us to do similarly. What I would like us to do is, sure, we could do a letter of support. I find that to be a little bit performative. What I would like us to do, and want to see if there's a second, is actually craft an ordinance that would be modeled after 16848. And the key points, of course, not everything the county does is relevant to the city. We don't, for example, run an elections office. But there are things that are in 16848 that I think we could mirror in an ordinance. For example, limiting city assistance, city cooperation with federal enforcement. There's a whole clause around that, increasing our outreach to immigrant communities, establishing, they talk about establishing a Know Your Rights web hub. I think some form of communications, whether it's on our web or some other way, around Know Your Rights, and restricting federal access to employee-only areas of city buildings. There's some language in 16848 around that. So those are the key clauses that would be relevant for the city. And it's possible there are other things that are not anticipated in 16848 that we might want to add, but those are the ones that I'm clued in on. So was curious whether we have a second to discuss this. Second.
All right, discussion. Any comments on Councilmember Shribnick's, Councilor Marshall?
You know, it's great because it's right in line with at least two statutes I can think of. One which protects people going to court so they don't have to be worried about being deported when they're trying to get the benefit of law, being a victim of DV or other crime. The other involves the limits of abetting federal jurisdiction, for lack of a better term, or the preemption. So yeah, I'm for it.
Any other discussion? Councilmember Sassen?
I just want to offer my full support.
Let's check. Is there any opposition on the council to us having a discussion about this at a future council meeting? All right, I'm not seeing any opposition, so let's make sure that we add that to a future agenda. Anything further, Councilmember Shribnick? All right, Councilmember Lutsis.
Yes, I just want to start by saying that I was saddened to hear about the passing of Mr. O'Brien. You know, he was an important part of our community, an important member, and he spoke up and he was passionate about helping those in our city. And so I do sincerely extend my deepest condolences to his family, his friends, and all those who knew him and were close to him. And, in addition to that, I want to thank the community members who spoke today. I think having so many people come to speak and reference how he inspired them to come and speak today shows the impact that he had. And I'm grateful that we had somebody in our community to encourage that, to empower those around them to speak up. And so thank you to our community members who spoke today during public comment. I do want to acknowledge our staff today as well and indicate my appreciation for all that they did to facilitate the selection of wonderful events that we had put on this summer. So a huge thanks to our staff for what they did to, really put forward many opportunities for our community to come out and to celebrate and to play together, to build relationships and create a Kenmore culture. And so I'm grateful for that. And, we had a lot of new staff introductions this evening. So I wanted to say welcome to our new staff members. Although they're long gone now, we're grateful to have you as part of our team, and welcome, Ms. Kilgore. It's great to have you here, and we're excited for you to take this role, and we look forward to all the good work we can do together. So thank you, and congratulations on your first day here at the City of Kenmore.
Deputy Mayor.
I too want to acknowledge our community members and council members who spoke on behalf of Pat O'Brien. He really, truly was a committed community member who, I hope he knows he was really heard by us, and I hope that we as a council are able to take some significant actions on the things that he was so passionate for. He may have been up here and riled up, but a lot of us knew him outside and had the opportunity to have conversations when he wasn't on the dais, and truly a warm heart, and the stories of how he cared for his neighbors really stood out. He was a good man, and we were fortunate to have him as a member of our community. And I personally will miss him. It's a season of transition. September. I think that Councilmember Lutz's, your comments on staff and the outstanding work over the past 6 months, and in particular this summer with all the beautiful events and good work, really stood out. I want to thank Stephanie for her role as our interim and the pride and care that you put into that role over the past 6 months. It was a huge commitment. So thank you. I do want to also welcome Terry. It's your first night. You're in really good hands with this team in the city of Kenmore. Truly remarkable staff here. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you're all able to do together. We've got some really big work to do. And we as a council want to do everything we can to support our community and your leadership role here. I think that's it. Thank you.
The fun part about being mayor is going last after everybody has already said everything you were going to say eloquently. I do want to just reiterate, Pat and I butted heads sometimes very publicly. In fact, we ran against each other twice for council, but I think there was always some respect between the two of us. And I respected how much he cared about the community and how vocal he was with his care of the community. And I always appreciated that. And we are going to miss him. So, and I appreciate everybody who came out today. Again, I'm going to say these are all things I had written down beforehand, but and other people have covered them. But Stephanie, I want to thank you for everything you've done the last few months, keeping the ship going forward, keeping everything marching forward with staff and with everything. We would be in a very bad place if you had not been here. So thank you so much for your leadership the past few months. I really deeply appreciate it. And then, I also want to welcome Terry to Kenmore. we're looking forward to see what we can do together. So thank you for being here and we're looking forward to everything. With nothing more to come before us, Kenmore City Council is adjourned.